Combatant Coffee. Here we are, ready to talk some boxing. And man, is it a big, big fight weekend. We got full boxing galore here for all the boxing fans this weekend. It's the kind of weekend you just chill out, kick back a few brewskis if that's your thing, or if it's not your thing, you still kick back, hang out, and boxing all weekend, man. And some good boxing at that. Some good boxing at that, right, Jimmy?
Let's start. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for both fights. Which one are you most excited for? They're
We
both
got
pretty
three
interesting.
cards on the weekend. People forget Zurdo's also fighting against Guglielmo or whatever, however you pronounce his name. Zurdo's also fighting in a cruiserweight championship fight. That's a nice fight on the zone. We have Fundora, and we have is Zurdo fighting tonight? I don't even know if Zurdo's tonight actually.
There's some on Friday. I think Zurdo
fighting tonight, yeah. Right?
Zurdo is tomorrow at the YouTube Theater in Los Angeles. Yeah. So that's tomorrow.
What about Top Rank?
Oh, Top Rank is
Valdez.
That's tonight. That's
yes,
that's
yeah, I knew it. I knew we got boxing tonight.
That's
we got
live
boxing
right now.
tomorrow.
It's live right now.
We got boxing going on all night, all weekend.
Of course, you know, because Senisa's fighting.
Oscar Valdez. Oscar Valdez is the main event. Come on, man. Oscar Valdez and Liam Walsh is a nice fight. Zenisa with a chance to become the undisputed champion against this chick is pretty good, actually. And the girl she's fighting is also a Golden Boy fighter, which is Senisa's old stable. So there's a little bit of vengeance there. It's funny because Golden Boy is going up against their new stables going up against their old stable in a bunch in the coming month, right? Because we got Munguia fighting Canelo as well. That's Golden Boy new against Golden Boy old. And Sinisa Estrada's fight, I forget the girl's name, man. What's the girl's name? That girl's with Golden Boy Promotions. 30-2 record, world champion, and she's fighting Sinisa. Vale, yeah. So Vale's with Golden Boy Promotions. Sinisa's with Top Rank, and that's an undisputed world title fight as well. So Golden Boy old against Golden Boy new is going to become a common theme in the next month or so. And then, of course, Oscar Valdez against Liam Walsh. Underscore's never in a bad fight, honestly. That's one I'm looking forward to as well. Honestly, we see how much Oscar Valdez is left, man. You know, he's kind of underperformed. He's been in a lot of tough fights. Navarrete beat him as an underdog. So we'll see. Oscar, I spoke to Oscar in the past month with Pro Box TV, and he looked in great spirits, and he looked ready to tackle this hurdle in front of him named Liam Walsh, who himself is a pretty good fighter. So I think it's a nice card on Top Rank tonight on ESPN.
Valdez still only has one loss. Oh no, he's two. He has Shakur.
Yeah, well, he also Navarrete as well.
Yeah,
but he's been in a lot of he's in a lot of high contact fights. You know, even the fight with Blue Nose was a tough fight. You know, high contact. Yeah, well, 2 fights. So he's been in a lot of high contact fights. You know, even with Burchell. So you know, you don't know what he's got left. But like I said, when I spoke to him, he seemed in good spirits. And it's honestly, I can't think of a time when Valdez fights where it's not exciting. At least if he's able to make contact. With Shakur kind of shut him down. But if Valdez can get to you, it's going to be an exciting fight because then you're going to have to fight him to get him off you.
All right, so this might air by the time we know the result in that fight. Might air right before, but let's go back to the first question I have for you. Which one are you most excited for, Paulie?
I mean, I think the card everybody's excited for is the pay-per-view, right? It's the PBC pay-per-view because it's really a good card, but it's all 4 fights are good fights. You know, Zerafa Lara is a pretty good fight. Zerafa is a rough and rugged contender from Australia, and we don't know what Lara has left. So a rough and rugged guy, if he can get to Lara, which a lot of rough and rugged guys don't get to Lara, but an older Lara, you might be able to get to Lara, and then all of a sudden that becomes a physical fight. Remember when Jarrett Hurd was able to get to Lara few years back, you know, how exciting that fight was. So Lara, as he's older, becomes easier to get to. And when Lara becomes easier to get to, his championship heart still remains. So therefore, it becomes a battle. So that could be a good fight. Julio Cesar Martinez is a wild man of the smaller weight classes. Makes weight, doesn't make weight. He fights in a high contact style himself. Good fighter, and he's fighting Cordova. Cordova is a guy who actually I worked one of his fights on Pro Box TV not long ago, maybe in the past year or two. Capable little boxer, bro. Honestly, that could be a nice little fight too. And then we got Rolly Romero and Pitbull Cruz. I love the trash talk, and Rolly's always one of a kind. You know, he sees a Mexican fighter in front of him. He's got his nickname Pitbull, so he calls him Chihuahua. What does he call him? He calls him Chihuahua instead of Pitbull. You know, so Rolly and Pitbull, but a good style clash. I just don't know if Pitbull is physically big enough to handle Rolly. Rolly's a big guy. You know, he was at lightweight, I know, but he was a lightweight / super lightweight. Well, Pitbull's probably a super featherweight / lightweight, but still, nonetheless. very capable fighter, and Rolly has shown some deficiencies lately. Even though I think Ismael Barroso is a very underrated fighter. I hope Barroso. That's one thing I'll say. I hope Barroso is able to get the winner of this fight. Barroso has been screwed left, right, and center in his career. I hope he's able to get an opportunity. You know what I'm saying? And because he really, really deserves it. He deserves the winner of this fight. And then, of course, the main event. I mean, Tszyu and Fundora. I think Tszyu and Fundora is going to be more fun than Tszyu versus Thurman would have been. You know, the Thurman with the long layoff, it's a bit of a tough fight to get into. You know what I mean? To get excited about it was, at least for me. But Tszyu and Fundora, it may not last as long, but I think it'll be a shootout for however long it lasts. And I think that'll be fun. So I'm probably most excited about the PBC pay-per-view. It's also the opening of the Amazon run that PBC is starting now after Showtime ended. So we'll see how that goes as well. You know, recently I heard news that it's not going to be only pay-per-view on Amazon. It's going to be also with your Amazon subscription. So essentially, it's basically like your old HBO and Showtime subscription was before, you know, where at times you got boxing on the network that you paid for, the subscription, and at times it was a pay-per-view. So essentially, Amazon is basically is using the same model that HBO and Showtime used in the past. So that doesn't change, with the exception of just the exception that changes is the home. You know, it's now on Amazon, and that's kind of could be better because Amazon is worldwide in a lot of households, as opposed to HBO and Showtime. To show those fights internationally, you had to make separate international contracts. So I think the potential there as well, and opening up with a really a big show.
And right now, everybody's looking at Tszyu to take on Fundora because of the way Fundora went out last time. It was kind of this
and also, but not just that. I think Fundora is also a high contact fighter. He's a little bit like a poor man's Diego Corrales, you know, where he's high contact. He's very, very tall, but he's high contact, close range. He's very, very tall, but he doesn't really use his height and reach to his advantage, at least on the outside. But he figures out a way to make it work on the inside, and he's been effective in a lot of ways. Listen, nobody expected him to get knocked out by Mendoza, but what the Mendoza fight showed us is that he's a little bit too hittable at times on the inside. And Tszyu can punch, and Tszyu is explosive. So, you know, that it could work against Fundora, but in order to get to Fundora, what happens? You also got to be able to get through his offense as well, because Fundora has the physical attributes to be able to hit you and hit you often once you're once you're inside on him. And of course, in order to get to him, you got to get inside on him because he's so big. On the outside, you're going to be almost useless. So I think I see Tszyu probably stopping Fundora, but I think it's a good fight. I think it's going to be fun while it lasts. You know, I think that's a nice fight.
What do you how does
and also keep in mind Tszyu is also, his name is growing, bro. A lot of people are talking about Tszyu now. Crawford mentioned he's putting his name in the hat as far as wanting to fight the winner. Errol Spence now threw his name in the hat as well. We were talking about that on Pro Box TV earlier. You know, the winner of this fight is kind of in a good position because some of the big welterweight names are coming up to super welterweight, and then you know, it's just winning a pay-per-view like this. It puts you in a big moment, you know. And of course, Tim being the son of Kasha, I know he doesn't want to be in his father's shadow, but you know, he already has that kind of pedigree that people already kind of know the last name and recognize the last name, so they're going to follow him a little bit more. And of course, being the phenomenal fighter he's turning into, I think it could lead to some stardom for him if he's able to win this fight.
So it was originally supposed to be Keith Thurman, and
originally it was going to be Keith Thurman, but Keith Thurman hadn't fought in a few years. I think they were just using his name as a sacrificial lamb. I don't know how ready Thurman would have been, but he got injured. Obviously, when you get older, and especially you haven't been busy, you're susceptible to those injuries, man, because you're going to strain your body, not keeping it warm, keeping busy. As you get older, man, you can't just start like you did when you're younger. I remember in my career, too, once you got to, like, you know, late part of my early 30s into my mid-30s, I started becoming very, very injury prone. And, you know, that's sort of what Keith is finding out. You know, took that long layoff and then was training for this fight, and he caught the injury. I heard it was a bicep injury, but nonetheless, that happens, you know. And I think this fight is going to be a better fight. Fundora, for all intents and purposes, lost his last fight to Mendoza, but he's been busy. Thurman, it was just non-existent recently, and so you were just basically selling his name more than anything else.
It was one of those. It was one of those knockouts, though. It was one of those. It
was one of those knockouts where
like everybody saw it. It went viral. Like, how, as a fighter, do you go to your next fight after something being shook like that?
That's the interesting thing, because Tszyu can also punch, and Tszyu may take you mentally to that place where you already been with Mendoza. The only thing I think Fundora can really hang his hat on is that it was an upset, and people still expected great things from Fundora, and I think people may still expect big things from Fundora if he's able to win this fight, you know. So I think the mentality you take if you're Fundora is you can make right all the wrongs that you had in that fight, because you beat Tszyu, people will totally forget the Mendoza fight loss. You know what I mean? But of course, what's going against you is Tszyu since has beaten Mendoza, the guy that knocked you out. And Tszyu has since won dominantly over Mendoza, the guy that knocked you out. So, of course, going into the fight, it's going to make people not really believe in Fundora the way maybe Fundora would want to. But it's okay. Nobody fights the fight for you except for you. So Fundora has a big opportunity. But, of course, the momentum is with Tszyu.
And not only that, beating him, but a world championship.
Yeah, and it's a double world championship. It was for the WBO title, and Fundora was going to fight on the undercard. I think he was going to fight, who was he going to fight? I think he was going to fight Bohachuk, but now Bohachuk is fighting Mendoza on the undercard, and Fundora got moved up to the main event. And for the WBC title, too. The vacant WBC title's on the line as well. So now all of a sudden, it's a world title unification. So, again, speaking of making the wrongs right, Fundora goes from a knockout loss to Mendoza to an opportunity where he can win both world titles. I know technically you're not supposed to be able to fight for the world title coming off a loss, but, you know, they make exceptions whenever they want to in the sport. Nobody actually follows any rules.
And being what is he, 6'6", 6'8"?
Yeah, 6'5", 6'6", 6'5", 6'6".
Well, we saw him at the
that's actually an interesting stat. That's an interesting stat. This is the largest height disparity in the history of a championship fight that is under the heavyweight division. The largest height disparity in the history of championship boxing. Anyway, for all weight classes below the heavyweight division. And the heavyweight division, obviously, there were height disparities, this kind of height disparity. But below the heavyweight division, this is the biggest height disparity in a world title fight.
So Mendoza was taller than Tszyu?
No, Mendoza wasn't a world champion. This is a world championship fight.
Yeah,
this is a world championship fight.
So. I thought Fundora had the belt at that point.
No belt.
Get an interim belt or something? No.
Maybe an interim belt, but no, there was or maybe there was maybe one on the line for that fight, but no, the vacant WBC title's on the line here, and Mendoza's not defending it against Bohachuk. Actually, no, because if there was a title on the line, Mendoza would have lost it to Tszyu, because Mendoza then lost to Tszyu after that, so there was no title on the line. Nobody won anything because Tszyu, because the only thing that happened was that Mendoza ended up challenging Tszyu for the world title.
Well, there's so much boxing. Sometimes, you know, we get caught in it. Speaking of the fight before this.
Oh, Pitbull. Well, Rollies, Pitbull, I think that has a chance to steal the show, really, man. I mean, Rollies and Pitbull's a great fight because Rollies really, really inconsistent, but he's good when he's on. You know what I mean? Listen, he's still a world championship fighter. I know he gets a lot of slack from a lot of people, but Rollies still a world championship fighter. Was, for all intents and purposes, was beating Gervonta Davis before he lost the fight. He's been inconsistent. Yes, Barosho, I thought, was robbed against him, but he was able to get that win. What I hope is that Barosho is able to get the winner. I still favor Rolly in this fight. I know a lot of people favor Pitbull to win this fight, but I still favor Rolly. I think physically he's too big for Pitbull. I still think Rolly can punch at this weight class, and he can get Pitbull's attention. And also, he's physically stronger and can be the bully in there as well. Because Rolly, one thing people don't ever talk about, he's physically strong. He can be a bit of a bully on the inside. He roughs you up. He did that to Davis as well on the inside. So, and I think that can work on a small guy like Pitbull. So, but Pitbull has these compact, short, tight punches. Punches hard to the head, punches hard to the body. It's a really, really good style clash. And again, another reason why I like this card.
So how do we judge these two on their similar opponents, which is Gervonta Davis, and their fights next? Because not that many people have gone 12 with two. Only 2 people have gone 12 with.
Yeah, but boxing math doesn't really work either. Yeah, boxing math doesn't really work. Yeah, boxing math never really works. It never really adds up. It's a very inconsistent thing. So I'm not really sure, but certainly it makes Pitbull it gratifies Pitbull's chin. You know what I mean? He gave Gervonta a very tough fight. While Rolly lasted, I thought he gave Gervonta a complicated fight too. But again, I think at 140, Rolly has a lot of the advantages. We'll see.
We got 2 people on this card with 2 viral who have been knocked out virally twice with Rolly and Fundora.
Rolly and Fundora, yeah.
So which one of these fights
we might get more viral moments on a card like this.
That's what I was asking.
Nowadays, whether it's viral for a bad reason or viral for a good reason, going viral could probably be a positive for you. Who knows?
I don't know if it was for Rollies. Those memes.
But you know what? I mean, Rolly's still a good trash talker. I don't know. The whole Chihuahua thing was funny because you got a little Mexican guy, but and he's named Pitbull because obviously he's vicious. But Rolly to flip it around and call him Chihuahua.
Oh, I know Pitbulls are vicious.
Yeah, I know you know.
I know. All right. Well, let's get to some predictions. Let's try it.
I think Tszyu probably stops Fundora, and I'm gonna go with Rolly in in a good fight, close fight against Pitbull Cruz, maybe go to distance. I think it's a good fight. I think that fight could probably be the best fight of the card. But I think Tszyu and Fundora, while it lasts, is going to be high contact.
High contact. And
Yeah.
what does this mean for Tszyu after? Is Charlo ever gonna? Is that ever gonna happen?
No, I think Charlo. I don't even think anybody's talking about Charlo. I think it's a matter of, does he get Crawford or does he get Errol Spence? Even Errol Spence is now throwing his name into the hat at 154 pounds, and these are big names that could be possible opponents for Tszyu. You know, these are the kind of guys that you kind of want to bring to the table if you're Tszyu, to kind of elevate your name. I think he'd be favored pretty good against Spence, considering there's a lot of question marks around Spence. But if he's favored to fight Crawford, I mean, dude, that is a bona fide super fight. I mean, because Crawford's momentum has never stopped, and Tszyu's momentum is ascending as well. That would be a terrific fight. But I could also see Crawford going the Chris Eubank Jr. route in order to get a little bit closer to Canelo, because I know that to me that's a ridiculous fight. But if enough idiots talk about a fight long enough, they end up making it, as we've seen with the MMA and boxing fights.
And I mean, what you said about Canelo too, about the way he's chosen fights since bivol.
Yeah.
It can happen, but Bud is a little bit different animal. I don't know.
Yeah, but listen,
he's hungrier than the Charlos.
I think Crawford, if he would fight Eubank Jr. and beat him, I think would be the whole point of fighting Eubank Jr. It would be to, put himself in a situation where the Canelo fight becomes more reasonable to people. Because the people like me, especially, I think it's way too many weight class jumps, So if he's able to get Eubank Jr., who's still way more limited than Canelo, but if you're able to get him and beat him, at least you're proving that you can deal with bigger guys, and you're getting a little bit closer to the super middleweight division. But again, I think if Tszyu becomes a bigger deal here after this win, he's rising fast. Maybe Crawford says, you know what, I might try my hat in the Tszyu sweepstakes, and then try to get a world title at 154 pounds against this guy Tszyu, who's now ascending and has a big name. That could also be something viable, because Tszyu's name is becoming bigger and bigger.
What's the deal with Munguia is what I'm asking, because it doesn't seem like that's an easy fight.
No, I mean, it's not an easy fight, but it's the easiest fight out of the ones that you won't get laughed at if you take it. You know what I mean? Like, because you can't go any less than Munguia. If you can't go any less than Munguia without getting left off the table at this point, I think Benavidez beats him. I think Morrell beats him. So I think he's gonna avoid those guys like cancer, But I think that Munguia, I wouldn't put it totally past Munguia to beat Canelo at this point, because it's not the same Canelo. He doesn't like a fast pace. Munguia loves a faster pace. Well, it would come down to whether Munguia would respect Canelo's power, which is obviously something that very well could happen, because Canelo's got a great sense of timing, and Munguia does leave a lot of openings in between his punches, his multi-punch salvos that he throws. So I think there's a little bit of what if in this fight that could make it exciting. Also, 2 Mexicans, Cinco de Mayo weekend, they'll definitely sell it.
I'm just seeing hate for a dude that's fighting somebody who's in his prime that's 43 now.
Who, Munguia?
Yeah.
Yeah, but Munguia has also been fighting blown up super welterweights for a while.
I'm saying, but that's got to mean something, right?
It's got to mean that he doesn't want to get run over like a train by Benavidez, which that's what would happen. I think if he would just vacate the titles, I wouldn't have a problem with him avoiding Benavidez. You can do whatever you want. It's a free country. You know what I mean? You don't have to do anything. But being that he holds all the titles hostage, and the sanctioning bodies have no morals and they don't strip him, well then the guys that are so good in this weight class deserve a title fight. That's how boxing works. That's how any sport works. If the Lakers reach the finals of the NBA finals, if they're on a good year, for example, and they, the other side is a tough game, is a tough team on the East, and coming out of the East. So if the Knicks and Lakers go, for argument's sake, reach the NBA finals, they have to play. One of the teams can't say, "Hey, man, you know what? I want to play the team that didn't make it to the finals this year. I want to play the team that made it to the finals." Yeah. So it doesn't work that way. Only in boxing can this kind of ridiculousness work, and only in boxing can, do you have groupie fans the level of which will accept that too, that kind of mediocre thinking.
Well, is that me? And is that you?
No, I mean, listen, the thing about boxing fans is even the ones that are complaining about it will watch it, because boxing fans were conditioned to watch all boxing. But of course, these things happen because there is a certain kind of boxing fan that is a groupie, and that so the powers that be know that there's enough of these groupies in there that they'll sell the ridiculous fight anyway. They don't have to make the best fight. They can make any fight with a certain guy, and people will watch it. If these kind of groupie fans didn't exist, there would be more pressure to make the best fights constantly. You know what I mean? If these kind of if there weren't so many groupie fans in boxing, but you know, it is. You know, it is. Unfortunately, you know, we're not as bad as MMA fans, but we're not really we're not exactly a sport with the most intelligent fans ourselves. You know.
I mean, look at us. So
yeah, exactly. Look at us.
Case in point. All right, Folly, it's good talking to you. And
all right, man.
I'm gonna wait. My prediction, just because this matters a lot to the fans, is I have Rollies surprise win KO. It's gonna be a viral moment, and he's gonna use it to spread everywhere. And then
Really?
I
Really
also have
Fundora.
I'm going with the two underdogs. I have Fundora. I think that last. I think he's gonna. I think the reach is gonna be a lot.
No, I like Rolly. Rolly's an underdog. I didn't know that. I like Rolly in the fight, but I like Tszyu as well. I like Rolly and
I could. Is he? I mean, I'd imagine he's the underdog just based off.
Yeah, possible. I mean, it's definitely a tough one to call.
We don't endorse gambling here.
Valdez tonight, Sinisa Estrada tonight. Let's check it out.